Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Shabir and we are in English language BSc compulsory class. Dear students, after having a good idea of our paper pattern and the outline syllabus of our English language subject, now we are in a good position to move forward towards our next destination, and next destination is our book reading, that is this one, a selection of English prose. Today we will start the first chapter of this book, and that chapter is The Damned Human Race by Mark Twain. Students, here we have our first chapter, that is The Damned Human Race by Mark Twain. But before we start our chapter, let's have some acquaintance with our writer Mark Twain. Mark Twain is a central figure in American literature. Twain was born Samuel Langhorne Clemens in 1835. It means Samuel Langhorne Clemens was his real name and his pen name was Mark Twain, and was raised in Hannibal, Missouri. During his early years, he worked as a riverboat pilot, newspaper reporter, printer, and gold prospector. Dear students, Mark Twain is a sort of very complex writer in the sense that he is a comic writer at one point, and at the very same time he is a very grave sort of person. Although his popular image is as the author of comic books, Twain had a darker side that may have resulted from the bitter experience of his life, like financial failure and the deaths of his wife and daughter. Talking about his works, his important works are Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, The Prince and the Pauper, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and Letters from the Earth. Dear students, his last writings are savage, satiric, and pessimistic. The Damned Human Race is taken from Letters from the Earth, one of his last works. Dear students, in order to have some fairly true idea of the personality of a writer, we have some witty, famous quotes by Mark Twain. Let's have a fun for some time, please. Let's see. Dear students, let's start our first chapter of the book, prescribed book. It is The Damned Human Race, and as you know, it is written by Mark Twain. I am underlining the things. Just a minute. Now this is the whole matter. And the question now that arises over here. Question is what sort of essay it is and why it is that much famous in the realm of English literature. I tell you, people at the very outset that this essay is not simply an article or some piece of literature, rather, it is a savage attack and ruthless operation upon the dirty human nature. And Mark Twain simply exposes each and everything. Rather, he simply makes these things very much naked before our eyes. The very nature which we have in ourselves and of which we are quite ignorant, he makes us not only conscious but rather makes us weep and we feel some kind of humiliation on our part really. And what the main point of Mark Twain is, Mark Twain says that sometimes back I was uh, studying the traits and characteristics of the animals which are called lower animals, because as you know, man and other animals, man is also a social animal, right? And in this manner, uh, all the creatures are called somewhat animals. So the animals, they are called lower animals, and we the people, man, I mean to say, he is called higher animals. And he says that he was studying the characteristics of and traits of lower animals, and while studying the traits and disposition of lower animals and higher animals, that is man, he came to know very surprising and humiliating sort of facts, as this crown of creation, or you can say this elevated being who is called man, is not crown of creation in the sense that he doesn't have those traits and higher qualities as the lower animals have. And he says that whatever he is writing, it is not simply speculation on his part, or he was thinking, sitting somewhere and brooding over the things, and he, after some speculation, he started writing. He says this is not the case. Whatever he has written in this essay or article, it has some sound foundation, and whatever writes over here in this essay, he can prove also. Rather, he experimented all these things somewhere there, as some scientist does his experiments in in the lab. In the very same manner, he says that he did all these experiments upon which he found these facts he is talking about in this article. He did the experiments in London zoological gardens. So, if scientist has his lab over there somewhere in some building, he, Mark Twain, he has also his own lab, which is in fact London zoological garden. So he, you can say, he did experiments there in these gardens, and he gave uh, so many facts they are very much humiliating, but they are there. And the very first thing he that he says that previously, it means before doing these experiments, he was a staunch bearer and champion of the Darwinian theory of ascent of man from the lower animals to the present state. As you know, you are the students of science, and you are well aware of the things that there is a theory of evolution, right, given by your Charles Darwin in the species of the origin of species. Yes, this is the name of the book. And in that theory he says that man is not simply uh, a pre-made sort of creature. Rather, uh, he has reached to the present status and stage after evolving some stages before he was animal, briefly we can say. So this is the theory. You are well aware of these things. He says that he was the champion and the staunch bearer of this Darwinian theory, that man has evolved from the lower stage to this high stage. He says that after doing these experiments, he is compelled to denounce this theory, and he has rather given up his support to this theory, because he has come to this point that man is no more a higher animal, and he is not the crown of creation. Rather, he is lowest of the animals instead of being higher of the animals. And he concludes so many uh, facts which need some a defecto courage, I tell you, really, to hear. But this is the case, or you can say this is the real points which he has given us. The very first thing which he tells us about human nature, he says that man is uh, mm, is an animal which is very much avaricious, and he is very much greedy, always eating the things and accumulating the things more than what he needs. So he is hell-bent upon accumulating the things and piling the things. And this avaricious nature, what the havoc this nature plays with the other fellow beings, they start starving, in fact. But this gentleman, who is not a gentleman, he simply keeps on piling and accumulating and collecting the things, the money, and other resources. And those resources and that wealth, he doesn't have that much need. And in order to prove this point, mm, he stages an experiment there, and we will discuss it in detail. There was an early, he organized a sort of you can say hunt for the earl or the night, and that night played havoc with the animals. And so far as an experiment with the anaconda is concerned, that anaconda or snake, he didn't show that much avaricious nature. So first point that he gives us, that is, man is very much greedy, but the animals, they aren't, right? And second thing is, man accumulates the things, and he keeps on piling and piling and accumulating the things, paying simply a deaf ear to the fact that this habit on his part can play a great havoc to his fellow beings, and they can starve of food, or they can be a prey of shortage of the things and money, and so other that. Third is he says a man is a, a person, he is an animal that insults others, and he harbors insults also. He simply keeps some grudge in his heart, and whatever and whenever he finds some, you can say, some sort of chance, he simply retaliates. So this revengeful act on the part of man is something very much thing which is found only in his nature, and the other animals, they are not that much spiteful. Next is according to our Mark Twain, that man keeps harems, he keeps wives and concubines, uh, and he does it with the help of brutal laws and atrocious laws, and all this is done without the permission of the other, you can say, other sex or other gender. And uh, another thing, what he says that man is the only animal that blushes. He is the only animal who is ashamed of the things, or you can say he is the only animal that has something to be ashamed of. He has some indecency of mind, he has some dirty mind, he has some vulgarity, obscenity, and so many other nonsense things. But other animals, the higher animals, which are rightly called, they must be called higher animals, they don't have any sort of shame or indecency, and they are quite innocent. They don't know uh, the things, dirty things that are happening over there. They simply are busy in their activity, in their daily routine. But man is that animal who always peeps into the affairs and pokes his nose in others' affairs. Another thing which he takes into account and pays attention, and that is man is very much cruel. He is atrociously cruel. He is atrocious, he is cruel, and he is an animal which that knows no mercy. And he gives the example of wars and the revolutions and other things. But the other animals, rather the animals, they are quite uh, ignorant of these things, and they don't have that nature. One thing very much important here remains to be mentioned, and this is the next point also. That point is and very true one really. He says that man is the only animal who who keeps paid people in order to have some fights with others. He has some organized army, I must say. But so far as the animals are concerned, they engage. They are also engaged in fights, but they engage only individual fights. They don't organize the massive wars and battles. And this is only on the part of man who ruins the things, and who you can say wages war and battles on other fellow beings. Next point is, he says that man is the only animal who is slave and who is to be slaved. It means he is an animal that can be called a slave of some other person, and who also tries to have slaves. And we will discuss when we go through these things in detail. When we go through or study this text, we will discuss all these things in detail. And next, this is simply the overview I am giving to you, important points only. If you keep these important points in your mind, it will help you understanding all these things. And next point, he says that man is the only patriot, and he snatches the countries of other people. Then a very eye opening fact he brings to our notice, that man is a religious animal, and he says man is the only animal that has religion, because all other religions, they don't have any, all other animals, they don't have any religion. And on name of religion, they don't fight. So man is the only animal that fights for the sake of his religion and in the name of his God. And there are so many other things I tell you, as I tell you earlier. We will discuss in detail, and this is an essay which is simply eye opener, I tell you. If we understand it, and we start practicing according to these things, and we start thinking about thinking according to this essay, you will feel how wrong we were earlier, and what sort of good approach this essay has given to us. Next, he says that man is a reasoning animal. He has reason, he has wisdom, he has logic, and he has another sense, that is another thing, that is called moral sense. And moral sense, according to Mark Twain, is something which has ruined the field of humanity, because moral sense is the power to distinguish between good and evil. So after distinguishing between good and evil, this man, this animal, simply goes to goes to evil. He never tries to do something good. He never tries to go for some good purpose. It is only the evil and the bad practices for which he goes. We have a pretty long video. I want to stop it over here. Next time, inshallah, we will meet again. Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here we have some important points of today's lecture, please.